Okay, I think it's the start of the hour, so we will get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for logging on for our Early Career and Trainee or ECTC webinar. I'm Tara Veazey. I'm one of the co-chairs of the committee, and we're very excited to see our speakers' presentations today. Before we start, I wanted to do a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I wanted to remind you all to check out the new layout for ISHLT Connect. Go play around, look around, see things look a little bit different, and also make sure you check out the early career group there as well. Be sure to log into your My ISHLT profiles, make sure everything's up to date within your member profile, and also make sure you have the ECTC checkbox checked. That's just going to make sure you get any communications related to early career, so emails and other communications. Look out also on ISHLT Connect. There was recently some postings about volunteering for committees, which is a really great way to get involved. So for people looking for opportunities within the society, that's something to put your name in for. As far as the webinar goes, any questions you have, please put in the Q&A at the bottom. As you go, you can add those. And if it's for a specific speaker, please note that it is. All questions will be done at the end of the webinar, though. So hang out and wait for those. And then I am going to turn it over now to a couple of my co-committee members, Forum Kamdar and Ashley Fritz, who will be moderating today.
Well, welcome everyone. Ashley and I will be moderating, as Tara mentioned. And I'd like to get started. We're lucky to have an all-star panel of speakers who have institutional leadership as well as leadership within the ISHLT. And I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. David Peng, who is a clinical associate professor of pediatric cardiology at the University of Michigan. He serves as the director of pediatric heart failure transplant and mechanical circulatory support. In addition to his institutional leadership role, he has a number of leadership positions within the ISHLT, including the Grants and Award Committee and the Advanced Heart Failure and Transplant IDN, as well as the Pediatric Professional Community Representative. He's also in the Action Network, as well as Intermax and Pedimax. And so welcome, Dr. Peng. We look forward to your talk entitled The Rise of the Career Adventure, Finding Your Leadership Power, which will address how to get started in leadership at an early stage career.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I want to generally thank Tara, Ashley, Laura, and the rest of the Early Career and Trainee Committee for this kind opportunity to be a part of this webinar. I'm truly humbled to be a part of this panel. Thank you very much for putting me as the opening act, so I don't have to follow the real-life superheroes, Andreas and Haifa. And big shout out to Ashley and the organizers for coming up with such a fun theme, one of the best themes that I've heard of in ISHLT talk. So I want to fully disclose that I certainly don't possess any superpowers, but I will try and offer up my ordinary origin story and straightforward common sense tips that I hope will be relatable and helpful to you all. Early in my career and even now, I have often felt like baby Groot, as you can see here, but I think I am proof that you totally don't have to be a superhero to get involved, find your niche, grow like Groot does, and take on leadership opportunities and do good work, even early on in your career. So the committee asked that we start by sharing just a little bit of our story, and I'll try to weave in 5 quotes and pearls that might provide some guidance as it has in my career. Just a quick background. As you heard, I direct pediatric heart failure and MCS at the University of Michigan, and I am a pediatric heart failure transplant VAD cardiologist. I have taken a rather circuitous path to get to where I am now in Ann Arbor. After college, I taught at high school for a few years. Then I went to medical school at UC San Francisco and residency in Seattle at the University of Washington and Seattle Children's Hospital. Then I went back to the Bay Area for a fellowship, for pediatric cardiology fellowship at Stanford for my senior fellowship in heart failure and transplant as well. For that, I chose to interview with two other even larger centers before deciding to return to Stanford to complete my fourth year. And early into my fourth year, I also realized there was not going to be a job for me at Stanford at the time of my graduation. And this really pushed me to cast a wide net to find the best fit and opportunity for me. And I ended up interviewing all over the country, even took second interviews at 3 different places that I was also strongly considering before deciding to sign on with University of Michigan. I tell you all of this because it goes into my first sort of career pearl that we all should be open to wandering, exploring, and moving around. If at all possible, I urge you guys to strongly consider training and experiencing different centers during your schooling, your training, and even your early career. And at the very, very least, even if you're dead set on an institution, interview and consider other places before committing to that position. And I think you all know there are many potential benefits to exploring and wandering. It's adventurous and fun to live and work in different places. You learn different ways of doing things. You figure out what you really want and need and what you don't want and need. You realize you can be happy in different places and not just one single path. And you get to meet amazing people along the way, whether it be in positions, fellowships, interviews. You get to make lifelong connections that you can count on in the future for clinical advice and also research collaboration and good fun at the ISHLT. And when you move, your value often increases. I would say that it is often easier to make the leap from the trainee world to attending at a new institution. It's hard to be a prophet, so to speak, in your own hometown. They don't know you or see you as the student or trainee at a newer institution. And new institutions really covet your hard-earned outside experiences. And even if you are dead set on going back and settling somewhere long-term in the future, you will likely have those chances. By leaving, you gain valuable experiences, outside experiences, and if you do well, you often make yourself a more valuable, desirable, stronger candidate for future doors that may open up where you originally started. And this leads me to my next tip, that when one door closes, another often opens. So I would say embrace the adversity when the doors close. Take full advantage of exploring other opportunities when plan A, B, or C don't work out. It's perfectly okay to be disappointed, dismayed, but I believe things happen for a reason. And so pick yourself up and go find that better opportunity. The best choices aren't always your first choice. And it may very well be a blessing in disguise that you don't get your top choice. And for instance, I was raised in the Bay Area, grew up in the Bay Area, that's my hometown. So when I started my training at Stanford, I envisioned staying there the rest of my career and never leaving. And I was pretty devastated, to be frank, to learn during my fourth year that there was not going to be a position open to me when I was graduating. But this forced me to explore other opportunities that I would not have even considered or imagined. And I had never really lived anywhere outside the West Coast of the United States. And with that door closed, I applied broadly, and I applied for the job at the University of Michigan. And I found that center to be amazing, exceptional, and the team to be incredibly talented, collegial, and fun. So my interview in Ann Arbor was the first time I visited. Fast forward 7 years, my family and I have completely fallen in love with our lives here in Michigan, and we are now Michiganders through and through. Michigan wasn't really on my radar previously, and now we really can't think of a better place to live. And even more, by taking this step beyond what I was comfortable with, Michigan was not only willing to hire me, but when the chief sat down with me, he told me he wanted to bring me in as director of pediatric heart failure and mechanical circulatory support right out of fellowship. And I think the first words out of my mouth when he said this was, "Wait, are you serious?" And I think you made a mistake. And my first instinct was to try and turn it down, as I did not feel even close to being ready. So this leads me to my third little tip, that you are capable and you can do it. And we all have deficits in our knowledge and experience, and I don't think anyone feels 100% confident in doing their job. However, by the time you get to where you are at, you know how to get help, you know where to find answers, you are resourceful and you can figure it out. And you are one of the most highly educated and trained specialists in the world, and you have the tools and qualities to be successful. Someone told me that that institution is recruiting you because they really do think you can do the job, and they're putting lots of resources and hope into that. And so I would say, go for it. Lean on your previous mentors. Mentors want to help you. They want to help you succeed, and it brings them great satisfaction when you do. And the University of Michigan, wanted to hire me as this director level because they saw the background that I had, but I didn't think I was ready. And I ran the situation by my mentors and colleagues at Stanford, expecting them to really laugh out loud and agree with me that I was not ready. But surprisingly, they all thought that I could do it and that I should definitely take it on. And after doing your research and making sure you are going to a place with solid leadership and supportive colleagues and enough resources, believe in yourself and take the plunge. And this leads me to my fourth little pearl, is to strike while the iron is hot. And sometimes you have to make the iron hot by striking. Really amazing opportunities don't come around every day. If I passed on the previous one, I probably wouldn't have had that same opportunity at this institution. So if presented with a fantastic opportunity, consider making the leap. And this also goes for other opportunities. Don't be afraid to say yes. And at this stage, you likely will never have more flexibility in time than you do early in your career. So volunteer for things big and small. Take the initiative, strike the iron, make it hot. And there are so many opportunities out there. So put yourself out there. And it's just little steps that make a huge difference. So I still remember back in 2016 in Washington, D.C. at the ISHLT, I heard about the new ISHLT monograph they were putting together for pediatric VADs. So it took every ounce of courage that I had to go up to Dr. Angela Lortz after a session and tap her on the shoulder and introduce myself and ask to get involved with the monograph. I think we chatted for less than 60 seconds, and I was pretty sure she forgot who I was the second I walked away. But to my amazement, a month later, I received an email from the editors asking if I would be willing to co-author a chapter as just a fresh fellow grad. So be willing to take those little small leaps of faith and cold call people for opportunities that excite and interest you. And more often than that, especially in the society, people will respond and be open. And pearl number 5, this goes without saying, but connect with others as much as you can. You can't do this alone. We are better together. Be an enthusiastic, positive, valuable member of your community. Make your presence felt. Prioritize attending in-person and virtual meetings, network, attend socials, ask questions, speak up and offer your ideas, collaborate with others, and connect with them. And if you are granted the leadership opportunities, before making or enacting any change, really take the time to listen and learn from others and connect with them. Get to know people, build relationships, establish trust first and foremost, and know that it takes time to affect change. And also, if you're in a leadership position, obviously, it goes without saying, you need to be highly reliable and dependable. Don't drop balls, return emails promptly, follow through on tasks, and just be that highly reliable team member. So briefly, my 5 takeaways. Be open to moving, especially early on. There are so many benefits, and it opens up a lot of doors. Embrace the situation when you don't get your top choice. It can be a blessing in disguise, and you often get much better opportunities around the corner. Believe in yourself. If you are offered a leadership opportunity, you are ready to take on new leadership opportunities. Seize opportunities and don't be afraid to make opportunities happen. And to be a great leader, it starts with being a great team member. So listen, do go work, build trust, and collaborate. So those are some of my tips in a nutshell.
Thank you, Dr. Peng, for providing these leadership pearls. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Andreas Zuckerman. He is the director of the Cardiac Transplantation and Department of Cardiac Surgery at the Medical University of Vienna in Austria. He is the past president of ISHLT and currently serves on the board of directors of ISHLT. He is internationally recognized in cardiac transplantation and is on the editorial board of several journals and is a mentor to many trainees. Welcome, Dr. Zuckerman. We look forward to your talk, Thors Hammer on Transformation, Moving Mentees to Marvelous Action, which will address how you can encourage mentees to find their own path to flourish outside of their initial niche with a mentor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Tara, Ashley, Laura, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. And as I see, I'm the great gray beard of this group, the one who really, I guess I'm maybe the oldest one talking to you. But so my role in helping you find Thor's hammer of transformation. So as you know from the movie Thor, Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor, does not go to anybody, it just goes to this special person. And this is a connection between the hammer and Thor. And this is something about mentor and mentee. But as you also know from the movies, at some point you have
Andreas,
yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but can you click the button at the top that changes what's presented? Because you're showing us a presenter view. And I think you want to just show the slides.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. You shared it just fine. I want to make sure we're not seeing all the background stuff because that's, you know, the secret sauce.
You see now the real presentation, or is it still?
You're not sharing currently.
Am I sharing now? Let me see, sorry. So now you see my here, and is this okay now?
No, and then up at the top, you want to where you see the two windows next to each other. Yep, you're almost there. Go back
Back,
to the left. I think you want to click that button.
Okay.
The two arrows, it says Anzeigen Toshin.
Yeah, the double arrows. There you go. Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank
you see, we cannot train an old dog new tricks. It's a matter of aging. So, so thanks again. So I just started to talk about the relationship between Thor and his own hammer and how they both are connected, but at sometimes they both need to disappear. They have to be in different locations. So, sorry. So this is my financial disclosure slide. So just to share you briefly my career milestones, which are quite over a long term, because I started, as you see, in a research transplant immunological lab as a student in 1988, so way more than 30 years ago. And interestingly, and most people do not know this, I started as a transplant coordinator in 1991, because at that time in Austria, we had too many doctors, too few nursing and allied health people, and transplant coordination jobs were for doctors who were unemployed. So I received this position because I started to get interested in transplantation, and that really prepared my next steps. I then received the position, you would say, residency and fellowship training in cardiothoracic surgery at the Medical University of Vienna in 93 to 2000. And I had the real luck and chance to be involved in a lot of immunosuppressive trials, because the mid-90s were the rise of the new immunosuppressants, mycophenolate, tacrolimus, sirolimus, everolimus. So I had a real luck to have great mentors. And I think this is the most important point. If you have great mentors, you know what you can expect and you know what the mentee needs. And so I was really on the front row of using these immunosuppressive drugs in clinical heart and lung transplantation. And by that, I got international recognition by science. I started networks in Europe, but also transatlantic in the US. And step by step, in the end, I became the director of cardiac transplantation in Vienna. And with that, like this, I did also the first machine perfusion heart transplantation in Austria in 2007. So way more than 10 years ago. So I'm a member of several societies, and I count ISHLT my most important society. This is my professional home. This is where I really have my full heart in there, and I'm very active in participation. This also helped me to connect, help to be mentored, and also help mentees inside of the society. And with that, you know, I was program chair in 2015, and I'm now the current past president of the ISHLT. So looking just as a mentor track record, I just calculated that. I was really astonished how much I mentored over my last 30 years. So 24 thesis students, research fellows, PhD students, 9 associate professors came out of my mentorship, 2 full professors, so department chiefs, 18 clinical fellows, 1 is chief in overall cardiac surgery, directors of VAD programs, TAVR programs, aneurysm teams, valve teams, so the whole cardiac surgical expertise. And I also, in the end, in my school, we're now co-directors in VAD programs, cardiac transplant programs, directors for DCT or machine perfusion programs. So it seems if you are a good mentor, more mentees will start to approach you, and you really learn how to help these people develop in the best way they can. So how did I achieve this? And I think this is something you have also to ask potential future mentees, what do you want to achieve? And you have to see how can you achieve these things. Of course, on one point, you have to have love and passion for the field of heart transplantation. This is really important. Without love and passion, you just cannot translate mentorship. You just cannot hand over the love for the thing what you are doing. And you have to have love and passion for the patients in need of transplant. You really need to love patients, to support them, to help them. And with that, your mentees will definitely feel this, how much you care for your patients. And of course, and never-ending curiosity to solve the riddles of transplantation is also important. You cannot stay more than 30 years in this area unless you're really curious on developing things. And with that, definitely this is something that sparks also ideas in the youngers. And you have to have a commitment to excellence in clinical work and research. You have to be a role model for your mentees, so they learn from you that you really are committed to the excellence of what you are doing, either clinical work and research. And you have to will to learn every day and understand the Latin word "scio nescio," that you really do not know anything, that you always learn new. And sometimes one of your mentees will give you some new vision and will give you new ideas, and you will find out, hey, they're more intelligent than I am. And this is actually a good thing because you trained them really well. And you have to have an interest to learn from others and to teach others. Don't keep your knowledge for you. Hand it out to everybody who is interested, but also be acceptable to learn from others, even youngers, even your mentees, because sometimes, as I said, they might have a lot of wonderful ideas. And of course, you have to have a global vision of the transplant networks who cooperate. Of course, on your regional basis, local basis, but also really on the global, because transplant is a really, really international area, and you have to have international networks, partly also to help your mentees to develop, because you can send them to other places and help them to develop their skills in other places. And of course, you have to be persistent, and you have to be persistent. So I often ask people who try to work with me or ask to work with me, so why do you choose cardiac transplantation? So if you ask me, and I always try to find out what they really are, what's so interesting for them. So are they the right people to work with? And of course, if you choose transplant, okay, still it's a life-saving procedure. And after all these years as a surgeon, it still has the wow effect if our heart starts beating again. If you see this, when your mentee works with you and you see the excitement, then that's the right person. Of course, the significant developments, xenotransplantation, machine perfusion, DCT, blah, 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 sensitization, all these different challenges that we have. And I think it's an open field to establish a career and a new generation to lead. This is really needed. And this is what you have to teach them. This is something you have to lead. And as a leader, then as the next step, you also have to be a mentor, and then who brings together mentees and build up powerful work groups. So the secret of choosing the right mentees for their work, well, I have one thing that I received from the current president of ISHLTv, Luciano Portaveno, one of dear friends, and some of you might know this. So I'm really looking for people who can dream big, know how to have fun, and get shit done. This is the people who I most enjoy working with, and these are the perfect people because they have ideas, they get the work done, and can also have fun with them. And this is the best way to find the right people to work with as mentees. There is, of course, some wise words, the 6 C's to successful mentor-mentee relationship. So first, connect with them, communicate with them, collaborate, not just take their ideas, but collaborate, circulate the ideas, help them to build up the networks and cultivate, nourish them, and of course, celebrate. It's always a good time to celebrate with your mentees, either at a meeting when somebody was successful in giving a talk, or if a good paper was accepted, really celebrate, nourish this group and work with that. And so for the next step to help somebody, a mentee, slowly to move on and get their own niche and go their own road, a mentor can provide value to a mentee by sharing the knowledge of life experience. So now I have a knowledge of 30 years in transplantation, so I can share that with my youngers. Well, sometimes they say, oh, the gray bear is really telling the stories, but you have a lot of funny stories, a lot of interesting stories that help them understand sometimes problem and how they can solve it. Offering encouragement and inspiration. You are something like a mom or a dad. They come to you and you have to take their hands. You have to make them. They should be excited, and you bring them an idea and say, "Do it," and bring back hopefully the results. Listen, of course, when needed, and providing guidance and advice when asked. Don't push everything over them. Wait until they approach you and ask you for guidance. And if you have the right mentor-mentee relationship, it's often there that if they cannot go on anymore, sometimes you can offer them advice. Sometimes you don't have a clue what to tell them, but just listening to them about the problems, this is, of course, helpful. And helping the mentee to develop their own leadership skills. This is really important, not just keep them in the second row, help them develop leadership skills, and help them really to move up these achievements. And of course, at a certain point, you should helping the mentee to set goals and explore also different career paths. It's very important, as the previous speaker said, that sometimes you may travel and see other places and learn more from other teams. Very important. Maybe even move to a different direction. Maybe move out of cardiac transplantation for some time, just go for valve replacement surgery or just that surgery. So it's very important to broaden the mind. And of course, if they try to get away, you should help them reviewing the resume and helping them to prepare for interviews so they really know what they have to do to say the right words. Think about what did you wrong, what did you right when you had interviews, and help them to do the best job in these interviews as possible. And of course, suggesting new opportunities for the mentee. Take on advanced skills. So tell them, hey, there is this position open. Why don't you check it out? Don't be unhappy if they say, no, I cannot do because of my family, but you are just there for suggesting. They have to make their own decision, but it's good for you to suggest. And sometimes you hear from your own network, oh, I need somebody who is an expert in this area, or I need somebody working that area. And then it's really, it's your job to help them create, if they're interested, to help them to work maybe in another position. So in the end, of course, you have to let the bird fly. You have to get them out of the cage and let them fly. But I can tell you, if you have a very nourishing, positive, good system of mentor-mentee, sometimes for them, it's really hard. So sometimes they need a little bit of persuasion that they have to get on their own feet or have to get out there in the world to understand or get, and even maybe come back later with some knowledge. So sometimes you have to keep calm and just kick them out in a very positive and nice and polite way, shove them out, because sometimes they feel so happy and everything is nice, everything is easy in your own team, but they need to advance, they need to grow. And this sometimes can only be outside of family, outside of the cage, if they go to a total new area. But always keep the door open for them. And this is what every one of the colleagues that I trained, that I mentored, I always said, here is home. If you're not happy or if you need guidance, you can also always come back to daddy and I will try to help you in any way. And sometimes they came back into the team to become team members after several years of Wanderlust, as we heard already. Sometimes they just came back for advice and asked me that. So in the end, it's like this pet with dad said, yes, I came back, I always come back. So something like this relationship always keeps active, even if your mentee has become a full professor, even in another continent. If the mentor-mentee relationship was built on a well and strong foundation, and a lot of energy was put into her, and both sides received back, I would say, energy, knowledge, then it keeps on for a very, very long time, and sometimes forever for the rest of their careers, because they always know this can be home and I always can relate to my former mentor. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to discuss any further questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zuckerman, for the valuable insights with your experience in mentoring. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Haifa Leister. She's a consultant pharmacist in transplantation and ventricular assist devices at Royal Brompton in Harefield Hospital. She's highly involved in interdisciplinary care. She is the chair of the Advanced Heart Failure and Transplantation Interdisciplinary Network Steering Committee and the former council chair of ISHLTv for the Pharmacy Council. Welcome, Dr. Leister. We look forward to your talk entitled Guardians of Unity, the Marvel of Making a Team on how to build and grow and maintain a strong team. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, and I'll thank the committee for choosing me to be the closing act for this really interesting and amazing webinar. And it's quite hard to follow both David and Andreas, but I'm going to take you through with the theme of Guardians of Unity. A little bit about my career path, and it's quite interesting to note that even my previous speakers, we've all had different paths coming into it. I never set out to be a transplant pharmacist, kind of almost fell into it. I was a resident pharmacist beforehand and had broad exposure. I kind of thought I was going to do hematology oncology. The roles just didn't come up at the right time. So I did a 1-year maternity cover at Harefield Hospital as a clinical services manager, where my role was to cover the transplant ward. And that's kind of where my love for transplant has come through. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's one of those things, you either really enjoy it and the challenges and the variety it brings day to day. In that year, I saved £500,000 over the 12 months, which back in 25 years ago was quite considerable, and it's still quite considerable now. And that realized me to be able to have my own create a whole new post that was a specialist pharmacist in transplant. I formalized transplant guidelines so that everybody knew what we were doing in terms of, and manage those guidelines and manage the budget so that we can look to see where we were spending money and where we could probably do some cost savings or efficiency savings. So after the new role started, I then started getting my teeth into transplant, which I really enjoyed, like I said, and started developing a clinical service, and I covered the whole lifespan. So I saw patients in the intensive care and on the transplant unit, but at this point didn't really, other than supporting, and didn't really support clinic and outpatients. Started attending consultant ward rounds. At that time, we only had, when I first started, just one consultant that did everything. And like I said, we kept building up the guideline development. Initially, when I first started, it was about 10 pages. It's now over 200 pages, and we've actually got it as an app that the physicians, pharmacists, nursing staff, and everybody can use and refer to. Managed entry of new medicines, and as Andrea said, so some of those old medicines, I still remember them as letters and numbers. Started doing clinical audits, research, and like I said, keeping a handle on drug expenditure. So I stayed in that role for about 10 years, and then a big change happened in the UK, and then we had these roles called consultant pharmacists. So I became one of the first, I think it wasn't the first 10 in the UK, but the first in transplant. And it meant that we could develop certain areas. So education, I started and had to self-teach myself. So it'd be nice to be able to try and work out how we can support educating pharmacists coming through, and also the junior doctors and nursing staff, and also to enhance our support to the patients, help develop leadership skills. I was able to take on more roles. I set up with some colleagues in renal and in liver, a solid organ transplant pharmacists association, so that we can try and support new pharmacists coming through in terms of supporting them with their development. And ISHLT, as the previous speaker said, there are lots and lots of opportunities, and I managed to dip my toe into certain things, whether it's guidelines. At that time we had a pharmacy council, and that's where things just kind of explode as such. You develop international links, which things like COVID came through absolutely brilliant, because if I needed to, I could call colleagues in Australia, in the US, or parts of Europe to find out what they did and so forth. Then I went to, there's only one thing one person can do. I had one person that had replaced my old job, so that was just 2 of us. And only 50% of my time is hands-on clinical. So start developing a team. So by doing that, try to see where the needs were. So our inpatient service, we expanded to 7 days, because we realized that there were lots of medication, patient safety errors that happen on weekends. So we now went from 5 days to 6 days, and now we do a 7-day clinical service to support the wider medical team. And that meant that the hospital had to invest in to be able to provide extra support for toil days and things. Develop the team to be able to look at patients in the long term, because majority of patients, thankfully, just come back to us for clinics and for optimization. So we led to pharmacy-led medicines optimization. We started a pilot of 1 day a week. Got feedback from the wider team, from patients. This was also income generating, so it started to produce some income. So it allowed us to expand the team and grow the team. So now I have 2 senior pharmacists in clinic that support both face-to-faces, and now post-COVID we do a lot of things virtually and remote monitoring. And also I've got 2.4 senior pharmacists in terms that support ITU patients, transplant at a unit, and we have a rotational pharmacist where they get a lot of good clinical grounding. I decided to embark on a more meaty research. So I decided to do a PhD with Dr. Reed, or Professor Reed, as one of my supervisors. I then have completed that just this summer, and took on, as I do, another role after that. So from February 2023, I took on another leadership role within the Institute. I'm now the Harefield CRF, or Clinical Research Facility lead, as of February, and I do that as an extra day a week. It has been very interesting, very challenging, because I'm not managing necessarily pharmacists or transplant. It is multidisciplinary and multi-specialty, but it is very interesting. doesn't matter. So this cartoon picture depicts not just my life as a PhD, but it's kind of life as career and life in general. You might start off with something, with a goal, but lots of life events get in the way, but can slow things down or can affect. You might want to look at different funding streams for my PhD, because I did this part-time, so this was alongside my clinical role, which was quite challenging. And then obviously the competing pressures from clinical roles, from all your other roles and things. And that is generally life and work in general. So what Pearl's going to do is that you never do this on your own. That is the beauty of transplant as well. Build links, collaborations within your institute, within different specialties. So, for me, from pharmacy, I've got physicians, surgeons, nursing staff. Get the right team behind you. It definitely helped me with keeping me on track for my PhD, never mind just generally work and development. Support a mentor too. And I had several over the course of my 25 years, definitely in the early stages. I had a mentor within kind of my pharmacy career, then also from within the transplant world, and also from ISHLT. It does have a platform for either becoming a mentee or mentoring yourself and others. Business cases in terms of developing your team, all of these need funding. So trying to work out some kind of some funding streams, understand commissioning. Is there a route for income generation? Is there a way through saving, indirect savings that can be put back into support staffing, all those kind of things, and deliver on them. If you deliver on the first, they will continue to listen to your business cases. Developing resilience, these takes a long time. What I can do now is definitely not what I could do 20 years ago. Networking, like I said, is really enjoyable, as well as very important. You will get imposter syndrome. I got imposter syndrome. I still do very often, because you're always pushing the boundaries on somewhere that is new. That's a new challenge. And like I said, ISHLT has lots and lots of opportunities, so do get involved. And as was mentioned earlier, there are several committees that are coming through looking for volunteers. So how would you build a superhero team? And I do have a superhero team. It's developing a shared goal, a shared team sense of purpose about what you're doing, so that you're ultimately trying to improve the outcomes for patients. You're trying to make things safe. Everybody in the team is going to come very different. I guess in terms of the galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy, they're all very weird, but they all work together and come with a common goal. Everybody has different skills and strengths, so they're not all going to work to the same way, and everybody gets encouragement in different ways. Try and reduce potential for silo working, and try and build in that it's a system approach and it's a team, so that people feel that they can support each other. And then you will hopefully get a strong unified team. It's important to blend all these skills and capabilities so that you get a diverse team, and you don't kind of, as Andrea said, you don't develop your own echo chamber. You listen to everybody who has different opinions. Changes in teams do happen. I currently have somebody who's gone off on maternity leave and have a backfill. So, you have to keep on developing. And as mentioned earlier, people develop, they go off, they go to another unit and build their skills and further. And sometimes they come back. It's always important to have trust and commitment within the team, so that you can help to manage any internal conflict and have a space for everybody to talk, both as a one-to-one and as a team. So within my team, since producing it, we've gone on. I've got several non-medical prescribers which can help support the multidisciplinary team. We're prescribing the suppressants, the anti-infectives, and optimized dosing. We have a very heavy and busy home care and outpatient anti-infective service, which again is income generating and saves beds. So it all feeds into that narrative that the managers and finance love to hear. The 7-day service, again, is medicines optimization, extending patient safety into the weekend, which we do with our critical care colleagues. And as I said before, the medicines optimization clinics are income generating. And like I said, we started from 1 day now to 5 days, and combination of face-to-face and virtual. Embrace research, embrace innovative opportunities, so that because those are the things that will develop. And it doesn't all like I said, it doesn't all happen. It's an evolution. This is my wonderful superhero team at Harefield, and this photo was taken this morning. So yeah, they're looking nice and fresh and smiley. So in terms of the multidisciplinary team, while we build our own team, we're still one team within a wider team. So the beauty of transplant is it is multidisciplinary working. It's a dream team. You've got your nursing team from your clinic, your intensive care, your transplant unit. You have all your psychologists, your dietitians, your physiotherapists, the lab, your pain teams, pharmacists. Like I said, we do our 7-day service with our critical care colleagues. Transplant, again, you've got your medical team, you've got intensivists, you've got ID physicians. Don't forget the patient is also central to what we do. And it's always important to communicate. So, as I said, it never gets easier. You just learn to go faster. You just learn to be able to do more, and you learn to adapt. You're always learning, and there's always new challenges and opportunities, which embrace, because you just don't know where it'll lead to. And again, I can't say it again, ISHLT has lots of opportunities, so please do engage. They will be very, very enthusiastic to have people join, and I'm also listening for questions.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank both Haifa, Andreas, and David for participating and taking time out of their days to talk to us about these interesting topics. I think we're going to open the floor now for questions, and I'll start those questions off with a question to all of you. If you could go back to the early career faculty stage, would you do anything differently that you feel would have been helpful in developing key leadership skills? I will start and kind of direct that maybe at David.
Thank you for that question. What I would do differently, I think it's related to also the attendees' question about how best to approach people. I would say be bold and just don't be as hesitant as I was in previous conferences. Just approaching people and introducing yourself and seeing how you could get involved. So be bold in introducing yourself. Go to more sort of subcommittees and organizational meetings, and just make your presence felt, and chime in as you, even in your early career, have a lot to offer and add.
Thank you, David. Andreas or Haifa, do you have anything to add?
Being bold I think is an important point. Don't be shy. Be active. Voice out. Voice your thoughts. There's nothing wrong voicing out. And I think when I started in ISHLT, it was a very closed up society, which has totally changed. So concerning the network of the International Society on Lung Transplantation, it's a very open society now, and people should just grab a position, put some time into that, some effort into that, and then definitely they will grow in the ranks within the ISHLT, because we need young, talented people there.
Yeah, and can I just also add is also reflect on how everybody else's leadership styles is. So, you know, those around you within the team, you know, different people on the team and the wider MDT will, and also with ISHLT, everybody has a different leadership style. You might want to say, actually, that worked, or that one, you know, I can take that skill set and take it into this in this situation. And, you know, you can speak to your mentors and your mentees as well. They can also hopefully give some tips as well. I know I definitely pick different things from various people, and as well as what to do, as well as what not to do, and how to approach something as well.
Thank you. This question is directly for Andreas. How do early career leadership opportunities through ISHLT, such as the Early Career Committee, help promote the development of leadership skills or further leadership opportunities within ISHLT?
Well, you know, if you take a certain position in a professional community, or in one of the interdisciplinary networks, you represent the young group within ISHLT. So you should also be open to the other members of this group and give feedback to the young people of ISHLT. To grow in these positions, very important that you be active. Now there are regular meetings, regular teleconferences between the professional communities and mostly the president of the ISHLT. You rarely come as close to the president as you have you seen this person live, and you can ask, you can discuss. And I can tell you, when I was president last year, I tried to attend most of these meetings, and I was really trying to push the people to bring in new ideas. If you have an idea that is of importance, voice it out in the team, and I guarantee that the leadership of ISHLT will open their ears, because we need young, enthusiastic people to bring in new ideas. Of course, there are certain processes that have to be followed, but this is the part of us, the mentors for these people, to help you go through the process until you know how this process inside of ISHLT is working, and at a certain time, you become a mentor by yourself. Just be active and bring in ideas.
That's very insightful. Thank you. Is there a common roadblock that any of you find that early career faculty run into, and what would your advice be to overcome them?
There's always roadblocks and minefields. Yeah, you can choose. Sometimes I call it sometimes eminence-based medicine. So there are always some colleagues who know everything better than you, who have more eminence and tell you what is right and what is wrong. Believe in yourself, believe on what you have learned, listen to these people, but do not trust everything which is told to you. I think this is very important. But of course, you have to find a way how to move around these roadblocks. Sometimes you're strong enough to get through the roadblocks, but sometimes you have to move around and bypass these roadblocks.
Sounds like you're saying trust but verify. That's some sage advice. Haifa, do you have any roadblocks that you may have seen by early career members or advice on them?
So I guess it's also time, managing your time with all the different things that will come, and all the asks that will come for you. So probably don't overpromise, try and deliver on things, so that you can have that success rate, because that also builds your confidence as well as everybody else's around you, in terms of then continuing to ask you, because they're like, oh, that person delivers, and so you can do the next bit. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because nobody gets to anywhere without having asked for help along the way.
That's great advice. I think I may ask for help here and take your advice and ask if Forum has any questions.
So, I think, thank you again for all the speakers for, sharing your career paths and how, in your experience with leadership. One of the questions I had is, in different stages of your career, how did you develop the leadership skills? Did you take leadership courses, lean on your mentor, coaching, books? What is the way that you found, developing your leadership style to be the most effective?
I would say, I think Andreas and Haifa touched on this, but finding and holding on to those key mentors and modeling yourself after those key mentors is probably my biggest tip, and something that I've held onto. I love listening to, audiobooks and podcasts and things like that. But just really learning from those that do it well, the masters in the field. I think that's the quickest way to sort of getting a jump start in leadership.
I totally agree. I think you're absolutely right with that. It's the people who live the examples. You can go to 100,000 training courses. You get all different advices, but this is very, I would say, theoretical. You mainly learning by doing and watching the experts doing. Then do not need to be super surgeons or super cardiologists, but you see greatness in leadership. You see it, and this is where you just have to suck in all the ideas and try to do it then your own way. But you can look a lot and you can learn a lot from these people. Haifa.
Yeah, so and the only thing I'll just add on to that is put your name forward for things. You won't develop these skills unless you put yourself outside your comfort zone and put your name forward for things. There, and you've got people around you that can help support that. And like I said, it's just get yourself out of the comfort zone, put your name for things. You'll make a little bit of mistakes, you'll learn from them, and you'll deal with things differently next time around.
Thank you. And we have a question in the chat from one of our participants about how to carve an academic path in a non-academic environment. And what are some goals that might be achievable as an early career faculty member?
I think if you're in a non-academic, let's say, surrounding, you can become the academic there. I think one of the points is you have to start to create a network or try to get into a network of academic people who might not be in your own institution, but connect with them and try to learn from them and keep the academic growth working, and be aware that people who are not in an academic environment, it might be sometimes even a problem if you start to become very academic, because nobody feels like that. They're not used to have academics around that. So sometimes I understand it's problematic, but you have to focus on your goal and try to get in connection with people outside of this environment. And maybe at one point you will just move out to another environment that might be more academic.
I agree with that. And also, our field has a lot of important registry work databases like ISHLT and Intermax, PDBax, where you can, there's a low barrier to entry. You could submit proposals and get involved that way. There's volunteering possibilities with all these standards and guidelines and monograph chapters and whatnot. And I can personally attest that they are welcoming to early career members that don't necessarily have loads and loads of publications and grants, just to get your foot in the door.
Well, thank you all for your time. I think that we're going to wrap up shortly, but I just want to thank our panelists again, Dr. Lister, Dr. Zuckerman, and Dr. Peng for coming to speak to us. And I will hand the platform over to our leader, Tara Vesey, if she has any last minute comments. But thank you all for coming and joining us.
No, I would just also echo what she just said. Thank you to all of our speakers. You are inspirational to all of us. And thank you to everyone who was able to log in and anyone who's able to watch later online. I know this will be recorded and posted later. So I appreciate everyone's participation and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.